Half a day, everybody. I'm Jason Salas, joined once again by Holly Rustick, the siren of all things grants and funding. And literally, that is the name of the company that she founded, granting grants and funding. So, Holly, welcome back again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, so you have a wonderful workshop coming up that we want to
Yeah.
tell all of our friends in Guam and the CNMI about because I know, I did a video with you a few weeks back and everything like that. The landscape continues to change about the nature of federally backed. It's not financing because like that implies that there is some sort of, long-term obligation, but it is proper like funding and grants and everything like that. So, before we get into, this wonderful forum that you're putting on for our friends, where do we stand right now?
Well, I mean, we definitely stand that it's changing, as you mentioned, and it's going to continue changing as far as, especially if you're looking at federal grants. So the landscape with federal grants, and that just goes to like some organizations, just being, gutted right now, for lack of a better term, but that's what's happening. But then also there's some lawsuits going on I've seen recently over the weekend where a judge actually said shutting down USAID was illegal. So we don't really know what's happening. So that's interesting, right? So there's a lot that's going on. There's a lot of legal things at work as well, when things are being shut down on the federal level. So federal agencies and a lot of federal agencies then give out federal grants, and that is approved through Congress. And there's layers to this, right? So we are seeing shifting as far as grants that may have been always available, may not be, but then we're seeing some come back too. So there's a lot that's changing as far as what we know throughout all this. Well, I will say what we know is grants aren't completely disappearing at all. So that's good
Exactly.
news. That is good news for all you people in Guam and CNMI. How they may look different on the federal level, yes, that could change. But what we're also seeing is foundations are also starting to pick up a lot. They're starting to put more than their annual 5% contributions. They're stepping up. They're like giving out advanced grants. Like there's a lot of landscape that I think that Guam and CNMI are used to just leaning into federal, right? And just because they don't know how to find the foundations out there that would fund cause areas like environmental things that we're doing here on island, like community-based things we're doing, like all of the things that we're doing.
So maybe
Um,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
to a certain point, there are organizations that are stepping up to not necessarily balance the equation, but to some degree, like make up the difference of what's happening with the feds.
Yeah, to basically say, hey, we understand you may have also been getting federal grants for your programs, and we understand that those are in flux right now and aren't, big things are going on. So we just want to step up and also help with that. So they're upping their contributions, right? They're giving out advanced grants. That is absolutely going on from the foundation level since those are private organizations, which are non-federal. So that's really non-governmental. And I think the thing is with Guam is we've just not really been able to tap into a lot of those because they take relationships and we're so far geographically that many organizations have just leaned into federal because it's easier on that level. But, now it's a time I think also, yes, be aware of what's going on federally because some grants are coming back out, like all of the things, like don't pull back completely thinking they're all gone because that's not true. On the other point, also lean into looking at foundations that aren't going to be impacted by what, federal decisions, you know what I mean? So then that way, or they may be
Right.
impacted, but in a good way, right?
And
So
and
like
this
we need to build those relationships for sure.
and this is so key because the workshop that you have coming up, and let's talk about it now, I would say is more pertinent than ever, not just to people that are looking to get grant support for their creative projects, for their nonprofit organization, endeavors and things of that nature. But also for people that have been writing grants in the, let's call it the traditional way up to this point and everything like that. As the landscape changes and as the sands continue to shift and everything, they're going to have to basically like update themselves on essentially what the new protocol is.
Yeah, and I think it's knowing what's going on, right? It's also understanding like let's build new relationships. So that's it's finding those relationships to build out and to be like, okay, there's other things we can also do. So if we look at building out a grant application, I think one of the biggest things for me is why I love grants so much. Is because they build out a business plan. And grants are essentially a business plan. You have to do a budget for, like, if you're looking at a master grant template, you have to build out a budget for your priority areas and narrative. You have to put all the pieces of work plan together. And you can turn that plan into a grant, absolutely, right? The master grant application, but you can also repurpose that into website copy, into social media captions, into a donor appeal letter, into a corporate solicitation letter, into
Mm.
so many things because it's all geared on the business plan. You're not drifting, you're not mission drifting, you're not scope creeping, you're not doing all the weird things that you might do to say, ooh, this is open, let's create a project for that. No, first understand your priorities, get back to your values, and then find funding from that part, right? And so many people, when there's grants, what happens, or just other things that are open, they say, ooh, that's a great opportunity. They see the dollar signs, they have the anime eyes, the sparkle eyes, and they're like, money, money, which I get. But at the same time, it might not quite align, and then they try to do something that might align because the monies would be great to have, absolutely, to put their impact forward, to put their cause area forward. But then what they end up doing is, even if they get the money, sometimes it's so hard to manage because it's so out of scope. So I say one of the things that all organizations should be doing right now is get back to your values, get back to your priority areas, and then build out funding prospects from that. If they need to be new, cool, like we can do that. We can help find those for you, right?
Well, my
So
friends that
yeah,
work in the in therapy and everything would always say that introspection is a very good thing.
yeah.
And it seems like that is kind of apropos to what's going on right now with grants because yeah, and you touched on this a few weeks ago when we first had our interview is a lot of people who were affected either directly or tangentially. Everybody had their freak out moment. Now everybody kind of like, like calm down, catch your breath and everything like that, and let's figure out what this new landscape is.
Yeah, absolutely. And and just keeping up with it. Definitely you don't need to be 24 hours in the news cycle either. I will say that you don't have a news program, but to be in the oh my gosh, all the change. Like,
Yeah, you're in my
yes,
world
check
now.
in. Yeah, check in for good resources, but also just like it can still be a nose to the grind. Like, let's make relationships, let's fund these programs, let's get back to actually the work in that, in the fundraising in that. So absolutely. The workshop we have coming up starting tomorrow
Yeah,
on
let's do
Tuesday,
that.
April 15th. Yeah, and we have it for 6 weeks. And this is the 5th annual one we've done locally. And I love it because I love it so much because we've been able to help Guam organizations literally get millions of dollars. People learn how to write the grants. We're building capacity. They take that back to their organizations. They write grants and they report it back. Like, because of the training, they've literally been able to get like millions now, right? It's so, so cool. And to really understand how to build out that business plan, how to write that grant application. And then we show them how to repurpose. One of the things we're adding is, because we know, like, you also need to find maybe new funding sources and build those relationships, is my company is identifying 5 to 10 funding opportunities for your organization, which is amazing because we have the software, we know how to look at 990s, we know how to look at some of our other programs, like we do all the research, we've been doing that for over 20 years. So we're doing that as an added bonus for this round because we know we want to help Guam and CNMI, maybe find some new funders, right? Double down and learn how to write those grants, learn how to write better grants, and even just submit to them, maybe the ones that are still open that you've been submitting to, and just write more competitive grants, but also create those new relationships, get some new funding into Guam, import some money, right? This is the easiest way to import money right now in my, yeah,
Okay.
we're building up infrastructure, but hey, grants have been around. We have the infrastructure for grants on Guam. We know how to roll grants, but let's bring in some more money,
Okay,
right?
so are there still seats available for your workshop? Because I know that this week, for people of the Catholic faith can be like a little dicey because it's Holy Week. We got Easter coming up, we've got
Yeah.
spring break, we've got graduation, we got prom and everything. So I mean, it's just a typical Guam and
Yeah.
CNMI like lifestyle. We've always got a million things going on. So how can we make sure that we get in and we can avail of this information?
Yeah, definitely go to grantwritingandfunding.com. You can click on our Guam and CNMI grant training. We do have seats available. It is on Zoom, so it allows for more access. It also allows our brothers and sisters on CNMI to be able to easily access. It's once a week from 1 to 3 p.m. So what a lot of people do is they'll take an extended lunch break, or they'll, you know what I mean, like during that time. And it's for 6 weeks. And the reason we don't do it in a compressed 2-day kind of thing is because we also have you work on a certain part of that master grant application every week, and we give
Mm.
you the opportunity to submit it for review, and then we give feedback before the next meeting. So it's like these little microscopic pieces of it, but then that way you're learning and processing. It's not just a bunch of information where you get overwhelmed, because I've
Okay,
seen
so
that happen all the time, all the
yeah,
time.
and the boot camp approach is fine. I've done several of them for computer programming myself and everything, but you're doing more of a iterative approach, and it's kind of like the effectiveness is there,
Yeah.
because you actually like you learn the right way. And as you inevitably make mistakes and everything like that, you're able to course correct, and and move on to the benefit of your organization.
Yeah, I mean, we could look at the full master grant you build out at the end, but if we can catch things in the beginning, then it just helps you like not have to rework the whole thing. Like it's so much easier, and people have really loved this approach. And then we also, like I said, we identify the 5 to 10 funding prospects for you. We're also teaching you this time how to repurpose that into website copy, into social media captions, into a donor's appeal letter, into a corporate solicitation letter, and more. So we're also showing you not just how to build out your funding opportunities and your diversified streams of funding for your organization with grants, but to diversify it more with other types of funding so you can be more sustainable, right? Because people are like, oh, but I don't want to do grants. You should still do grants. But we can show you how that grant can then easily be applied to these other ways to bring in funding as well. So those are really the direction we're looking at as we're funding the resilience, we like to call it, in this year. And really, we're also reopening our agency. So if anybody wants direct grant writing services, we can do that. But
Excellent.
I'm excited. So our first kind of role is the training, though, building up capacity for your organizations, coming in and helping you do that, so you can start writing your grants too.
Okay,
Yeah, and
and one
then
thing
we
that
also
you
have replays available. Sorry, we also have replays available. So if
I
you're
was
not
just
able to
about
make
to
it
ask
in the
that.
week,
Yeah, thank you for that.
yeah.
So if for whatever reason people aren't able to catch like the live Zoom and everything, they can get it on demand after the fact.
Yes, and then you also get access to our on-demand grant writing master course, which breaks down every little thing into like 5 to 10 minutes. So like how to write a logic model, and then it gives you a template. So in the 6 months, if you're like writing a new grant and you're like, oh, I didn't have to do this before, even though I did it in the template, but that was like 3 months ago, you can easily dive in, find what you need to find, have a template for it, and have a little video training on it. So that's just because we know you might not be writing grants next month, but one might open in 3 months. So we want to have that ongoing support for you for 6 months.
Okay,
Yeah.
Holly, I do have one question of you, because as I've followed your career and as I've had the privilege of being able to interview you about your various projects, grants being like probably the foremost one, you're also a creative writer, and one thing that you've been able to do very, very effectively is bring people together and create a sense of community. And your workshops aren't necessarily just, talking at people, but it's also creating
No.
like a collaborative conversation. So what are people, participants, going to be able to get as far as interacting with each other in addition to yourself?
I love that you mentioned that, because we definitely have had that where people like, we also have testimonials on that of like, I've been able to meet other nonprofits, meet other government agencies, meet other businesses, and being able to collaborate. Like, it's amazing the work that people have done. And because, yeah, we have a little bit of lecture, but then what we do is we have working time. So we actually have working time, workshop time on this call, and we put you in little groups so you can have some time to work on it and get to know each other and network, but then we bring you back together to share. So it's been a great opportunity, even if it's like still online, right, on Zoom. It gives you the opportunity to meet other people and have that time and space to connect.
Strength
Absolutely.
in numbers, boys and girls. That's a very, very advantageous thing to have, and
Mhm.
Holly is absolutely facilitating that. And before I let you go, Holly, let me ask you, how has your workload like changed and everything like that? Because I mean, you as I said, you kind of are the Pied Piper for what we know as the grant writing process, and navigating through these very treacherous waters. But
Yeah.
you yourself have to get like up to speed on everything that's going, and probably like a chess player, kind of see 3 moves ahead of what everybody's doing and figure out what everybody's going to ask.
Yeah, yeah. And I think for me, I've had the wonderful just benefit and honor of having my podcast, I'll say, like right out front, like Grant Writing and Funding. We have a free podcast, everyone, so if you want to check it out. But why I'm
It's
saying
really,
that
really
is,
good.
thank you. Yeah. And why I'm saying that is because for me now, I've been able to connect and get to know so many people around the world in the grant space. So just the other day, I had Mike Chamberlain, who is the CEO for the Grant Professional Association, on my podcast. So I've been able to pick his brain. Rachel Warner from My Fed Trainer, I was able to get her and pick her brain. So I don't feel like I'm also leveraging my community and helping and bringing that knowledge to Guam, right? So I can just reach out. So otherwise, if my head's down in the news 24/7, like I'm going to spin out. Like I'm not going to be able to get my work done. And there's a lot of work that still needs to get done. Absolutely. Like I said, I reopened my agency because people are like, Holly, I need you to write grants. So if you don't think people are writing grants and winning grants right now, literally they are. That's why I'm reopening my agency, because it is such a need right now. And we have people in our overall programs, inside our programs, that we teach how to write grants and how to become a freelance grant writer. Every single week, even in 2025, y'all, they are winning grants. They are getting clients. Like, this is a time that really we need to lean into it rather than kind of like brace away. And I'll kind of say, we went through COVID together. We went through a worldwide pandemic together, and we saw grants change then too. So
That's a good
we've
point. Yeah.
definitely, yeah, I mean, we've been through things, right? We've been through things as grant writers. And right now, I don't, this is the time to lean in again and not be afraid, but to actually be like, where's this, how can I leverage other relationships? How can I get new funding? How can I expand this? How can I double down and just write better grants so I can be more competitive?
Exactly. Okay.
Absolutely. But yeah.
I got a bonus question for you. I totally wasn't
Yeah.
even thinking about doing, but when it comes to Guam and up in the NMI and everything, what are you as a learned expert in this space seeing as far as, the different types of organizations, that need to avail of grant funding? Because out here, we've got organizations that are involved in the humanities. We've got creatives, like I
Mhm.
said, they may be launching a film documentary or doing a creative writing project. They want to put on some sort of seminar
Yeah.
like that. What are you seeing in the CNMI?
Definitely here's one of the things. As I mentioned, I think a lot of times what we've been kind of is what's been easier is to lead into federal grants. And now that those federal grants may, just be closed for now or not available right now or cut, like, you know what I mean, for these specific purposes, I will say. And that's kind of dependent on the executive orders and all the things. But at this time, we're kind of seeing like a shy away from certain things that want to be funded from the federal government. And we're used to just like kind of leaning into that. What I will say is looking for more foundations, looking for more international funding. Even Guam is, unique, and this area is unique where we can tap into other types of funding that aren't necessarily United States based too, because of, if you're looking at environmental things like rising waters, coral bleaching, like all of that, that's
Mm.
necessarily like just that US thing. Like, it is more international. So there's other international grants as well that I think we should really be leaning into and
Okay, well,
looking
the
for.
one grant you
Yeah.
really, really need, everybody watching this, is granting yourself access to Holly's wonderful workshops. So, Holly, final plug and everything like that. Where can people go to sign up? And it starts tomorrow, so you got to get in now.
Yeah. Come in now. Yeah, it's already a great group of people in there. You are absolutely gonna be comfortable and loving it. And just really people there to advocate for funding for this area, right? Which I love. And so go to grantwritingandfunding.com. We have it up on the menu, so you can just click there. And it's 6 weeks. You can go ahead, jump inside. You're gonna be so welcomed. And just the investment. So we'll say the investment is now one seat is $9.97, or if you buy 3 seats, you get one free. So if you want to team up with your friends, or you want to team up with your department or agency or whatnot, you also have that available to you as well. But once again, yeah, we identify 5 to 10 funding sources for you. You're going to write a master grant application. You're going to be more confident in how to write grants and how to find new grant opportunities. And you're going to be able to repurpose those grants into the other areas and get support for 6 additional months. Like, it's amazing.
And
So
also,
please come
everybody,
in.
you get that $1 million smile that Holly is going to greet you with every week for
Yeah.
6 weeks, and she is going to help you through this because again, like we've been through that part of the initial emotional reaction and everything like that. Now it's
Yeah.
time, to get down to business and understand what's really going on. And with Holly's help, you are going to be able to get that funding that your organization really, really needs, and you're going to thrive, and that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Thank you
Uh,
so much. Thanks, Jason, for having me on. Yeah, this has been
absolutely,
great.
Holly. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.